everyone. Coach Sullivan here again with MGS Coaching Football. Excuse me. To my subscribers, I thank you. And to those who haven't yet, I really hope you do. I just completed my 38th year coaching football as a defensive coordinator, but over that span, I've also been an offensive coordinator, special teams coordinator, a longtime head coach, all of this at both the collegiate and high school levels. What I'd like to talk to you about in this presentation is one of our field boundary blitz concepts that we call Firestone or Bridgestone. Okay, Firestone or Bridgestone. And today we're going to teach you both versus one wide receiver. So non-subscribers, you're going to have to push that button, right, to have access to everything, including the introduction to the field boundary concept. All right, so this is ball on the hash only out of our base, which means we got too high minimum box numbers, right? So again, non-subscribers, going to have to push that button, all right? So before I go over the key terms, what I have on purpose is I have the formation with the ball in the hash. So this is be defensive left hash, okay? And on the bottom, it's the same, defensive left hash. Ball's on our defensive left hash, okay? And I purposely have one wide receiver to big field up top because that's going to be the field concept, Firestone. And on the bottom, I have one wide receiver into the boundary because that's the Bridgestone, right? The boundary concept. All right, so back over here, and then we'll bring all of these terms to life as I go through Firestone and Bridgestone. Okay, they're Firestone to field, Bridgestone into boundary, both trio coverage. And again, non-subscribers, to know what that means, you have to hit the subscribe button. It doesn't cost anything. So first of all, why ball in the hash? Only, right? Only ball in the hash. Well, it's a definitive landmark. It's a field boundary blitz concept. So unless the ball's on the hash, you don't have a true big field or boundary, right? When it's in the middle, it's not that you're in Never Never Land, but it's not as definitive, right? So that's why ball on the hash is mandatory for this reason. It's so much easier for the players as well, right? Why we have a field boundary blitz concept is because teams, offenses have field boundary tendencies. Okay, they all do, not just triple option teams. So that's the first thing. Second is, what is Firestone? Well, it's a plug blitz to the field. I'm saying big field because I don't want to assume that if I say to the field that everybody will know what that means. But Firestone is the plug to the field. Okay, balls on the hash, that's the field, right? Big field. Today we're going to show you versus one wide receiver. It's going to equal the free. So again, non-subscribers, you have to go hit that button so you can have access to the introduction to this concept. Okay. And so therefore, because it's the free, who's a safety, number 3 here is a spark blitz. Excuse me, which is a safety plug. So again, non-subscribers, right? Spark, safety plug. Okay, this is a BMW, it's called. BMW, okay? Which means the free is going to plug B-gap on his side because the code is cars. Any cars, it's the freeze blitz. Oh, okay? But that's important because in the field boundary concept, again, non-subscribers, the free is always going to be to the big field, always. That's automatic with the field. So therefore, the whip's not going to be involved in the blitz. It's going to be the free, okay? And so in BMW, the inside linebacker on the call side is going to plug A-gap on his side, which means he's a readout defender. So again, non-subscribers, because I'm not going to go over the readout today in this diagram. You'll have to see any of the presentations in the playlists, which subscribers have access to everything. And so the complement to Firestone, okay, F, it's going to field, is Bridgestone. B, going in from the boundary, okay? So Bridgestone is the plug blitz from the boundary. And so versus one wide receiver, it's going to be the boundary corner, who always is in to the boundary, hence his name. Okay? And the whip's always on the boundary because they travel together, as do the free and the field travel together. So non-subscribers, I've given you a lot of free information. Okay? And so Bridgestone is a 49er, which is the boundary corner plug and B gap. Okay, that's one of our blitzes. BMW and Firestone is one of our blitzes. 49er in Bridgestone is one of our blitzes. Okay, and it's the freeze plug blitz into B gap. In Firestone, it's the boundaries plug blitz into B gap in 49er or Bridgestone. So it's not as though we're reinventing things here. Okay, we're taking what we have, what we've installed, and now applying it to our field boundary concept. Okay? And then what goes with both BMW or Firestone and 49er or Bridgestone is creep. Okay, it's the safety and corner blitz technique that they execute anytime a safety and corner blitzes. They have to execute this technique. So that I will incorporate and teach just up here for the safety and then down here for the corner. Okay, so before I get into, excuse me, the specifics of Firestone, which is going to be BMW today because it's one wide receiver, and the specifics of Bridgestone, which is going to be 49er today because it's one wide receiver, let me just bring into the presentation why, to answer this question, why don't we just call it BMW or why don't we just call it 49er? Because when I call, Firestone, or when I call Bridgestone, we don't know how many wide receivers there are going to be. So it could be 1, 2, or 3, right? So we don't necessarily know which one it's going to be. So I can't call BMW because if they come with 2 wide receivers, it's going to be a different defender. So again, non-subscribers, right? So to answer that question, that's why. When the decision's made by me, this is not the player's decision, unless I've empowered them based upon some overwhelming tendency of the opponent we're playing. I make the call. Okay, we use a signboard to answer this question, and we pick Firestone and Bridgestone as plugs because tires have, plug a tire for whatever reason, you got a hole and you're trying to get to the gas station or whatever, right? So that's why we use tire brands, Firestone and Bridgestone, for the plug blitz, okay, in case anybody was wondering. All right, so now we're ready to get into the Firestone. Okay, so I signal we're going to the big field. We use the signboard. The kids know it's Firestone. Here, off we go. Clap. Kids turn, face the offense. So it's all predicated on the number of receivers. So again, non-subscribers, there is one wide receiver 5 or more yards from the tight end. So if the kids, as soon as I do this, they're screaming Ringo because it's Firestone. It's coming from the field. They know that. Then it's Firestone. Now we're going to get, and I'm going to do everything from here in blue. You're going to hear the free safety scream out his code name, Fresno, Fresno, Fresno. And then he will say BMW just to make sure that in this case, the Mike, whose code name is Michigan, screams Michigan, Michigan, Michigan because he's saying he knows he's in the blitz. Remember, right? Spark blitz. Inside linebacker call side, plug A. So he says Fresno, BMW. He says Michigan. That communicates that everybody knows he's blitzing and he's blitzing. Okay? And so the only thing I'm going to do with the coverage of trio, see how it says hot 1, hot tight end, hot 2, hot 1, middle third? I'm going to tell you right now, on the snap, he rotates middle, and everybody else plays their zone blitz coverage technique of trio. So non-subscribers are going to have to push the button, okay? He has the running back, and that's all I'm going to do with it, okay? because it's the free safety, okay, we're now going to come down here. Okay, we're going to do Firestone first, which is the spark blitz BMW, which we already went through. So now we'll skip down to the creep technique of the safety. Okay, the safety has staggered stance like that. His inside foot is up. So what the creep technique is begins with what we call a snap indicator. So I have the quarterback under center. So for us, and they can vary when they're under center, the quarterback, if he looks left, middle, and right, and then starts barking the cadence, maybe that's the snap indicator. And I'll explain how that factors in a second. Maybe it's the quarterback stands erect, goes through whatever it is he's saying, because let's say maybe a team has a lot of check with me's on the line of scrimmage, and then when he puts his hands under center, maybe that's the snap indicator. Okay? So I'm going to go with he stands erect and this. The snap indicator begins with the screw timing. Screw means safety working toward the line of scrimmage, in this case, because we're talking about the BMW. Okay? So the creep technique to screw down to the line of scrimmage, okay? Here are his feet, right? He's on the right, so the left foot's up. Creep technique. The up foot goes first. So he creeps down to the line of scrimmage or screws down using the creep technique based upon that snap indicator. That's when he starts, okay? So as a point of reference landmark, we would like him to be about 5 yards, or better yet, 1 yard behind his inside linebacker when the ball snapped. Okay? So roughly 1 yard behind ILB. He'll never be offsides, but it's a good timing point, and we want that inside foot up so when the ball snapped, he can dig and drive into the B gap. So part of the creep is he's got more weight on the up toe so that heel's off the ground. So when the ball snapped, he can dig with pressure and speed and drive. Dig and drive. Dig and drive. Okay? So now, ball snapped. Both defensive ends are slanting in the C gap. Nose slants A away from the call. Inside linebacker plugs his A gap. Safety plugs his B gap. And there it is. Okay, that's BMW. That's Firestone versus one wide receiver to the field. Okay? So obviously, you have to have installed BMW before you can install Firestone. Right? Down here, the rule is one wide receiver in the boundary, it's the corner. So I signal we're going into the boundary. They don't know what it is yet, but they can scream, lucky, 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 when they see that it's Bridgestone. Okay, so they know now it's going to be the plug. They're still screaming lucky when they come out and it's one wide receiver. Okay. Like up here, the free scream Fresno. Down here, the boundary screaming Colorado, because that's the code name for corner. We just have the same code name for both corners, even though the field never blitzes, okay? Just like the whip never does, we have other blitzes in our other packages where it could be either one, so it's just Colorado, okay? So now that they hear Colorado, that triggers Louis. Okay, so again, same trio blitz hot coverages up here. It's right. I'm not going to talk about it. After the snap, now freeze the middle third. He rotates middle. The whip has what is called a clamp technique that I will go over with you after I go through this blitz. Okay, but now the creep. Okay, now that we're in Bridgestone and there is no inside linebacker, 49er is just the boundary corner, okay? The creep technique for the corner, Okay, he's coming from a different angle, but he uses that same snap indicator. So say, whoop, right? And he goes under. Now he uses the heels of his rover outside linebacker as his landmark. So he, A, isn't offside, and B, he is in a position on the snap of the football. D end on the side of the call, slant C. No slants A to the call. Boundary corner is into B gap. Okay? That is 49er. We don't really run it very often. On an occasion, if we're getting hurt by some kind of a running play into the boundary, we will call it as a changeup. Boundary is typically a bigger, more physical of the two corners. But I'm still not a, big believer in running that too often. None, as big as he might be compared to the field, he's still a corner, right? So that is Bridgestone. So the clamp technique, see, whips at 12 on snap of the football. He stays at 12 working out to be hot on number 1 at 12. And the reason is, this story will tell it to you. 2014, we're playing Coast Guard. We called Bridgestone. Okay, we execute it pretty good, except they had a pass play on. They're so well coached. He saw the blitz. He just ran a two-step pitch. They played pitch and catch like in the backyard. The safety was screwing downhill 100 miles an hour. Instead of the clamp technique, he made one move, and that was all she wrote. So, right? You play it from 12. If they do that, you come downhill under control. You rally up, good short tackle. He picks up 6-7 yards. You live to see another day. We're okay with that. I'd much rather have that than have screaming downhill. Maybe you get a big hit, big play, but he's still going to pick up 2 or 3 yards. But if he makes a move and you miss, it's a touchdown, and I don't want that. Okay? So that is Bridgestone with a trio. So as soon as they come out and he screams Colorado, right, triggered the Louis, that's a Firestone with a trio. Those are the techniques. And again, to answer the question, I signal going to field and it's Firestone. We don't know which one it's going to be until we see how many receivers there are, wide receivers there are. So that triggered BMW with 1. Same with Bridgestone. I signal boundary, it's Bridgestone. We don't know which plug it's going to be until we see how many wide receivers. When there was 1, it triggered 49er. Okay, so again, it begins with, as coaches, our study by setting up tendencies, and especially Huddle does a great job with this. I realize there are all kinds of other programs that can do the same. But what are your opponent's field and boundary tendencies? In this case, it was 11 personnel. You do it for all the different personnel groups. Okay, whether it's 10, 11, 12, 20, 21, whatever it is, an opponent typically has a field and a boundary tendency. If it's one that you feel you can take advantage of by blitzing, in this case, a plug, do it. Same thing down here, okay? So this is part of every game plan we have. Sometimes it's a bigger part of the plan than others. But there's always a field boundary part of our game plan, okay? So as I said at the beginning, to my subscribers, I thank you, and I'm hoping non-subscribers, I made the point. But to everyone, I hope you reach out to me at CoachMJSullivan@gmail.com. It's starting to happen. When it does, I'm learning a ton. So it's a two-way street, and it's a great way for us to share football ideas and bounce ideas off one another. So please reach out to me if you have any questions.